All right, we are live. Back, Triple B, episode 6, Boys Bet Ball, and another week of craziness. We had an awesome Thanksgiving. I went to Dallas for Thanksgiving. It was a good time. We'll talk about the Cowboys winning and everything that comes with that. It was an underdog Thanksgiving this year, which if you bet the favorites, then it kind of sucks. But if you bet the underdogs, then you're sitting pretty right now. But how was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was good. Just in Southern California. And yeah, that's typically not the norm. I think everyone was pushing out content that favorites were like 51-5 straight up on Thanksgiving, and that trend was definitely bucked, and Vegas definitely won because most people will just blindly bet favorites.
Yeah, dude. I can imagine all the parlays that got busted, and not only one leg, but probably all their legs. So let's go ahead and go into the recap. We're going to kind of try a new structure of our show, kind of start with recap and then go into previews. I think this way probably works a lot better. Thanks for Spencer for the idea, but we'll start with NFL. And like we kind of started off, is Thanksgiving was an underdog story. You had multiple teams starting off with the Thanksgiving Day games. Two of them, you had the Lions or the Packers at the Lions, and then you also had the Chiefs at the Cowboys, which in fact was the most viewed, I think, regular season game of all time. It was like 57 million people watching that game, which is insane. But I think the Lions are in trouble right now. Like, they play the Cowboys next week. We'll hit that in our preview, but they didn't look good. And granted, the Packers are a good team. I think the Packers are probably going to win their division, and they are in the same division. So that was a divisional game at home. Yeah, you just hate to see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, most definitely. Detroit, I don't think their offense looked terrible. It's just their defense can't stop anyone, and losing, Amon St. Brown in the first quarter. They said it's a low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain. So will he miss time? I mean, they have, I guess, not a short week because they're playing back-to-back Thursdays, but definitely cause for concern, and we'll definitely hit on that. There's a lot of just interesting games this week in the NFL. I abbreviated it LLT, loser leaves town, just because I think that's one of those games, but we'll definitely dive into that. And then kind of transitioning to the next game, Cowboys Chiefs. As you mentioned, I didn't see that stat, but I definitely believe it. Everyone's, with family. They probably got the TV on, and Cowboys, America's team, against the Chiefs, who've been in the Super Bowl the last 3 years. And yeah, what were your takeaways from it? I mean, obviously the Cowboys won, but what stood out?
I think it played out almost exactly like how I thought. So I of course I had the bet that the Cowboys was a plus 3.5, just because I thought that line was way too much favoring the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's Cowboys at home. They always play better at home than they do away. And Chiefs haven't looked really good. They played Indiana the week before, eked it out in overtime. Cowboys have been looking good ever since the Quinnen Williams trade. Their run defense has been really good. Granted, the run offense for Kansas City is nothing really to like quiver in fear about. It's more their passing game, but their offense is really good, top in the league, like they typically are every single year for the Chiefs under Andy Reid. So I think it was going to be more of a defensive battle. So my bigger play actually was the under, which that totally got hosed. I mean, I still kind of thought I was on the right side. There was just some random like last second touchdowns, like Patrick Mahomes making Patrick Mahomes throws like across his body on third down. Literally, if they could kick a field goal, their last touchdown, the under would have hit. So it was kind of a bad beat, but of course it's always good for the Cowboys to come out with a win, especially over the Chiefs, and extend their playoff hopes. We'll get into it in the preview, but I don't think they're necessarily like obviously favored to make the playoffs. A lot of stuff has to go their way and they have to win out essentially. But the chance is not zero. But overall, great showing from the Cowboys. Their offense is doing what their offense has done all year, is get the ball downfield. They have George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, and Ferg, and you throw in Javonte Williams on top of that. Reasonable run game. But yeah, the Chiefs didn't look like they could really stop anyone, and it's definitely cause for concern. They're 6-6 right now, fighting for their playoff lives. If they lose one more game, I'm pretty sure they're out.
Yeah, I mean, all this that you just said right now makes sense. I feel like that loss, and I heard Bill Simmons talking about it on the podcast, that I feel like even if they won out, 11-6, all the teams ahead of them, Chargers, and granted they still have to play the Chargers again, but Bills and Jaguars, they have the tiebreaker. They're not going to play again. Jaguars are 8-4, and I believe the Bills are also 8-4. So as long as they win 3 of their games out of the next 5, they'll have 11 wins, which is the max the Chiefs can have, and they'll lose the tiebreaker. So
yeah, all 3 of those wildcard teams that you named, the Chargers, the Chargers, the Bills, and the Jaguars, they're all 8-4 right now.
Yeah. I mean, you know how much I love the Chargers. I know we have a little wager for the Chargers. Herbert broke his hand on Sunday. They say he shouldn't miss any time, but he has an Eagles team that is trying to lose 3 games in a row on Monday. Like, once again, we'll hit on that, but I feel like they're the only team that they can jump.
Yeah.
Of those 3.
Yeah, because the Chargers' schedule, it doesn't really get any easier. So I agree.
For sure.
But really good, solid Thanksgiving games. I don't think it really disappoints if you bet the over on both games. You easily hit, and that's kind of what the public loves to do. Is they want to see scoring, they want to bet the over, and you got what you bet for. So, moving on to the Black Friday game, both me and Spencer probably pretty upset that this happened. Everyone except for our Chicago Bears fans, but you had a Chicago team.
I mean, we got to quickly at least talk about, the return of Joe Burrow.
That's true. Sorry, there was actually 3 games. I almost forgot just because how bad the Ravens played. But
yeah, Joe Burrow returned, and I think I said it last week on the podcast. I was like, yeah, if it gets up to 7.5, I don't know if it even did, but it didn't really matter because, as Mike said, it was an underdog Thanksgiving, and Joe Burrow looked good. I mean, I think I saw that he had to take off his cleat every time he went to the sideline just because he was maybe uncomfortable with the cleat on. But on the field, it didn't really matter, and it was a pretty convincing win. I know Mike has Lamar Jackson on his fantasy team in our fantasy league. And yeah, AFC North, it's just like somebody has to win it. It's kind of turned into the AFC South of last year where, 12 games in, there's not a single team over 500, and, Bengals are 2 games out and they still play Pittsburgh at least once more this year. So that division is up for grabs. And yeah, any other thoughts?
No, I mean, Joe Burrow kind of proves he's Joe Burrow. I was kind of fading Joe Burrow a little bit. I hedged my bet later in the game because nothing was going the Ravens' way. But yeah, tough game. Them going into Baltimore, first game off of an injury. He played extremely well. Yeah, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Chase Brown in the run game because I want to say starting off the year, whenever they had Joe Flacco throwing for them at quarterback, they were probably the worst rush offense in the entire league. They would average like 50 yards a game, if that. So maybe it's a little bit of their line, but I think it's mainly their running backs. Chase Brown has really propelled that offense forward as far as a rush attack standpoint. And you got to give credit to the defense too. I mean, Ravens, you could say Lamar has been playing hurt and looked horrible. And all those are true, but you have to give credit to this Cincinnati defense, who I thought is horrible, and I still think they're really bad. But there's a couple games that they can pull themselves together and get some stops, and they did that.
Yeah, most definitely. Just definitely didn't want to touch on Joe Burrow because I did draft him in that league um, pretty high, and I just had hoarded him on my IR, hoping that he'd return. And he looks good, and he's probably we're in a super flex league, so you start two quarterbacks, and I have Drake maybe MVP May, hopefully not, and Bo Nix. So he's definitely an option to start in one of those two spots for me.
Man, Bo Nix. We'll talk about Bo Nix when we get to the Sunday night game. But Black Friday, man, both Spencer and I, as well as the rest of the country, like this Bears team, you kind of seen their schedule, super easy schedule. They finally have a decent opponent, even though the Philly has looked terrible, literally no offense, but they do have the defense to back it up. Chicago Bears just tore through that defense, mainly on the ground. I think they have the best rushing offense right now in the league. And it wasn't even that close of a game. So I give props to Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, their line, and Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson is a great coach. It is very surprising him coming from Detroit to Chicago, being able to turn around things so fast. But we're still doubtful on the Bears for sure, just because of the ease of their schedule so far.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you highlighted Caleb Williams. I think he threw for under 200 yards. Um, they had combined over 250 rushing yards. You mentioned DeAndre Swift. We can't fail to mention, I don't want to get his name wrong, pronounce his name wrong, but Kyle Managai. He has filled in for DeAndre Swift a couple weeks as he's been hurt, and he's a dog. 5'8", 207, and I think he might have had 130 or 120. They split the yards pretty down the middle.
Yeah, 130 for Kyle Monagai, and then Swift had 125. So yeah, they both were on a tear.
Yeah, I mean they look like Ben Johnson's Sonic and Knuckles, Gibbs and Montgomery from Detroit. I still believe that Chicago's pretenders. But you can't deny their record at 9-3.
Yeah, 9-3. They're currently the number one seed in the NFC, which is crazy. With the Rams losing in Carolina, which we'll touch on. But yeah, currently number one seed. They definitely have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. But yeah, if you've been betting the Bears still get, like, if you truly believe in the Bears, these lines, especially for this next game, I think moving forward are still going to be very much in your favor because, yeah, Vegas still kind of sees what we see and them potentially being frauds, and losing a lot of games down the stretch. But yeah, if you're betting the Bears, then you're getting really good numbers.
Yeah, NFC is an absolute gauntlet. Like there could be a team with 10 or maybe even 11 wins who don't end up making the playoffs. So it's left to be seen.
Yeah. I guess we can go into like the rest of the Sunday slate. Honestly, the best games were Thanksgiving and Black Friday. You can't really say much about the Sunday slate. I think it was not very good. Of course, you had some exciting games. You had the Rams Panthers game where we were betting. Maybe we jinxed it last week, but we're basically like Stafford being a lock, and we still think he should be the favorite. At least I think so. I have to look at the odds. I was listening to this guy talk about it and how they're very much overinflating. Like, it was a bad performance by Stafford. He threw 2 picks, had a fumble as well to seal the game, and one of those picks being a pick 6. But you got to give credit to Carolina. Carolina's a good defense. I was kind of skeptical a little bit. I thought Stafford, his pedigree and kind of what he's done during the season, especially Carolina the week before playing the Niners on Monday Night Football. So short week. They had a lot of defensive injuries coming in, so I didn't think Carolina was going to stand much of a chance against Stafford. But, Rams made mistakes. And despite all that, like, you got to give credit to Bryce Young, too. He made some crazy throws. Even, honestly, I'd say Carolina's defense played pretty well with those turnovers, but the Rams are still able to score a decent amount. But in return, Carolina was able to capitalize off those turnovers and turn into points and eventually win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the line going into the game was plus 10.5. Rams obviously favored. They didn't not only covered, but they won the game. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was I was very bullish on Matt Stafford MVP, and I would venture to say I still am. 2 picks and a game sealing fumble definitely hurt, but he still has 32 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Drake May looks good, but go through and look at Drake May's schedule. I think he's played 7 of the top 10 worst teams in the league. He's benefiting from a last place schedule last season. He had a good game against the Giants on Monday night. Not wanting to jump too far ahead, but the Giants kind of shot themselves in the foot. Missed a field goal. I think it had a punt return touchdown, so it was pretty easy to kind of just front run, which we know Lamar Jackson loves to do. Sorry, Lamar. But yeah, I think Stafford will bounce back, and hopefully they're able to see that playing in the NFC West is a lot harder than playing in the AFC East.
Yeah, I agree. And like I was kind of mentioning and listening to some guys' podcasts, and I mean, the fact that they made Drake May like clear favorite according to betting odds, I think it is kind of a massive overreaction. That doesn't mean like Drake May's not going to win the MVP or Matthew Stafford's a lock to win MVP. But I think at plus money for Matthew Stafford, having the season that he did, and yeah, he had a terrible game, but him being down as far as betting odds and some serious like plus money, I think that's like a relatively good bet. A lot of it's just, I think, overreaction. But of course, you have to see the next game and how the rest of the season comes to fruition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the rest of his schedule's easy. He has a bye this week, but these next 2 weeks can definitely skew their odds, or I guess next 3 weeks because the bye, next 2 games. Home versus the Bills and at the Ravens, who are the Ravens. We're trying to win the division, trying to make the playoffs. Could potentially be exposed that game. But just to wrap it off, Sunday night game, I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, man, Sunday night game. Broncos squeeze out another one. They give them credit. They keep winning, and at the end of the day, they're paid millions of dollars to win football games. But the manner that they're winning these games is by the slightest of margins. So I was very much on Washington. So I took the plus 6.5. I'm like, in Washington, Broncos covering a big line on the road. I don't see it. Washington coming off of a bye week. Dan Quinn. I can't remember if it's offensive, defensive. It might be offensive plays he started calling, but he's becoming a play caller now. He's experimented with it and tried it again this week. And yeah, you saw the defense for Washington kind of step up. And with that bye week, he kind of gave Mariota more, I guess, he already knows the playbook and stuff, but more comfortable in that starting position. And he made some great throws, some boneheaded throws as well. But what do you expect from a backup? But they're very much live in that game up until the very end. It went into overtime. And I was sweating that one because Denver scored first in the overtime. And so that means Washington had to come back and score a touchdown to at least tie the game. And it ended up being, there was a huge play where he threw it to McLaurin. I think they were on the 40 or something for a touchdown, but there was a holding call on the offense. So they pulled it back. Then the very next play, he threw it to Debo and he almost scored. They were down on the 1 or 2 yard line. So I was like, all right, this is cake. They're going to score. They didn't score three straight downs. So it was 4th and goal. Oh, actually, third and goal. They threw it to Ertz, wide open. Well, even the play before that, Ertz was wide open. He's been making great catches all game. He just butter hands. He drops the pass. So then it's 4th and goal, and Mariota just slings a rocket in between the Broncos defense and Terry McLaurin for the touchdown. And I don't even know what would happen to my bet. I think my bet still would have won, even if they ended in a tie. But of course, they decided to go for 2, and I love that decision. And they had a legitimate shot. They They ran a passing play, obviously, and then I think the fullback or the running back went out to the flat on the left side, and he was wide open. All Mariota had to do was just float it over the top of the defender, would have won the game. And Nick Bonito, really good player, knocks it down, and the game's over. So another close call for the Broncos. I still think they're very much overrated, but they're a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I will admit to some biasm, just being a Raiders fan and then being in our division, just like I said with the Chargers. But yeah, they eke out these wins. They're 10-2. They're tied for first place in the AFC, just like, or I guess with the Patriots. But the game changes in the playoffs, and quarterbacks are going to have to make plays. And I saw that Bo Nix leads the league in game-winning drives at 6, but one of those game-winning drives for sure was against the Giants, where they had to score like 31 points in the fourth quarter just to beat the Giants. You'll have teams that, yeah, when they'll put you down, they're going to keep you down, or those big leads that the Broncos tend to, give up, or I mean, go down, or just not being able to put away teams. These teams will come back, and be interesting to see where they end up, if they end up getting the first round bye and divisional wildcard matchups.
Yeah, man, and even it happened in this game. Not even going to speak and even mention the other game that I'm trying to reference, but so many times they're just like 3rd and long, and they somehow convert it. Whether it's like busted coverage, it's very rarely like he did have Bo did have like 1 or 2 really good throws. One of them being like he's falling on the ground, he like sidearms it into a touchdown. But a lot of the other plays, it's just like the defender is just like wide open. I think the defense is playing zone coverage in like a 3rd and 15 or something like that, and they find a gap in there, and he's just wide open, and they convert. So I think a lot of those plays, they were essentially like the Chiefs of the last several years, where Mahomes just like somehow found a way to convert these drives, and they keep winning.
Most definitely. Well, that kind of wraps up the week in the NFL. You want to transition to college basketball? Touch on that for a little bit?
Yeah, college basketball, touch up real quick. We had Feast Week, which is one of the best weeks of the year. Of course, you have a great time with football and everything, but then in college basketball is one of the best times because you have a lot of these top-ranked teams play against other top-ranked teams in numerous tournaments. So you had BYU coming out in the Terry Chocolates Invitational. They had some tough tests, not going to lie, where they looked a little bit shaky. They played against Miami, which that was a really easy play. I think they closed before the game. The line was like 8.5 or 7.5, and against a Miami team, I haven't really watched Miami at all, so I thought that line was a little high. So I waited for a live number, and kind of what we exactly thought. It was a kind of a close game. I think BYU was down like 2, maybe at half. I can't remember, but it was a close game. And then I grabbed it live, like -1.5, -2.5, and they closed them out pretty well, pretty handily. And then they played Dayton on the other hand. Dayton's a good team. They're always really well coached, have good players. Played BYU a little bit closer than I'd be comfortable with, but I was able to snag, I think that they were like 8.5 or 9.5 at close, and I thought that line was too high again. BYU is very much a second half team. So exactly how I predicted, they were down like 4 or 5 at half, and I grabbed it -2.5, and I also slammed money line at the very end. And that was a little bit of a sweat, but they were able to get it done. And then you had the Players Era in Vegas. They were playing at a Michelob Ultra, and then I want to say T-Mobile Arena. And that's a great tournament. I think that's going to be the premier tournament for many years to come. You had many top 10 ranked teams. Houston not looking so great over that weekend in a close game to Syracuse, and then also losing to Tennessee. But Kansas looked great. Michigan's the team I want to talk about, just because Michigan, they're loaded. I think their top 10 players is the top 10 in the compared to any other team in the country. You have Yaxel Lundenberg, who came from a UAB team, which I saw many UAB games last year, and he's a unit. He's like 6'9", 6'10". Plays the 4, but he can stretch it out. He can shoot threes. He can handle the ball. Very surprisingly, he has a lot of college experience, and you can see it. He's definitely developed his game over the years. And Dusty Mays, the former FAU coach, comes into Michigan, second year in the program, I believe, and I think they're the team to beat. I think they're favored to win the championship right now. Of course, it's very early, but yeah, they look really good. They blew out every single team, including Gonzaga, by 30. Yeah, their first game, I think it was San Diego State. They beat by 30. And then they played an Auburn team, which is always a good team. You don't have Bruce Pearl coaching them anymore, but you have his son. Always a really good program. Blow them out by 30, and then you have Gonzaga in the championship game. Mark Few, historic college coach. Gonzaga's always really well run. Good bigs, but they blow Gonzaga out by 30. So I don't see how they're not number one in the country right now. But really good things. And that's the one thing I love about college basketball is these strong non-conference matchups early on in the season. Somehow, some way, college football needs to implement something similar. Of course, you don't have the amount of games that basketball teams play in football, but schedule like 1 or 2 like really good non-conference games early on in the schedule, maybe less conference games or something like that. But that's something they definitely need to solve. And that's why we're in this whole conundrum about committee selection and this team gets in over this team, or Texas doesn't make it because they played this team or whatever. I mean, they lost to Florida, so I think they're out. But that's an issue definitely college football has to address. And honestly, even just expanding the playoff is going to solve a lot of those problems. But I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Short college basketball segment. We'll hit it more as the season progresses and football kind of finishes up. But let's go ahead and move on to the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a ton to talk about in the NBA just because, I mean, I think both me and Mike, as well as most of the country or even the world, football reigns supreme, especially as the football season wraps up and more, playoff implications, but games become more important. But essentially, the way to just sum it up is Oklahoma City is unbeatable, and they might become even more unbeatable if it's possible, thanks to Paul George and the Clippers. That trade is looking. Yeah, I said it, and I know Mike thinks that the Dallas trade hits a lot closer at home, but you trade for Paul George, give up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and your entire future in unprotected firsts or swaps. This season is an unprotected first, and currently the Clippers are 14th in the Western Conference, 2 games ahead of the Pelicans, in a draft that people are saying it's the best one in 10, 15 years. Maybe not 15, but 5-10 years. Definitely the league is nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Clippers look cooked. Like we just recently had the news earlier today that the Clippers cut Chris Paul from the team. This is literally his last year. He wanted to come back to the Clippers for his farewell seasons because that's the team that he's had the most success with, I guess, other than the Suns. But like longest run with most success on the Clippers. And he lives here. He lives in California, so he wanted to come back home. And they cut him. There's lots of things surrounding that, issues with him and Ty Lue and being negative and stuff like that. But yeah, this Clippers team is a mess. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they. I don't even know what you do if you're the Clippers. I mean, we'll talk about Giannis because Giannis has definitely become available for trades. And we'll talk about potential trade packages, but if I'm Steve Ballmer in the Clippers, like you just build this brand new Intuit Dome, which I want to go to one day. It sounds sick, but like invested all this money, and on paper their team looks incredible, but they suck. Like, what do you do? Trade James Harden, and even then, it's like maybe you just concede that Oklahoma City's going to take your pick, and you just kind of tank. But I honestly don't know what they do.
Yeah, I don't know what you do as well because how many people would want to trade for a Kawhi Leonard who plays half the games every year and what I don't even know how old he is, 36, 37-year-old James Harden.
I,
He can
I
still,
would say James Harden probably has more trade value than Kawhi Leonard.
yeah, most definitely. But it's just matching salaries with this new CBA. It just becomes difficult, and point guards are in highest demand. I mean, there's very few point guards who could score the ball like James Harden, but you just ask yourself, am I willing to trade away two, three, maybe even four players for an old James Harden who tends to shrivel up in the playoffs?
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Clippers did, but I mean, that's the Clippers sending home probably your most important player ever in the history of your team. And if he's causing problems, it makes sense. But come on, like he's played in the league 21 years. It's the last season, and you just tell him, "Hey, go home."
Yeah, that's wild. I'm gonna love to see the documentary on that one because they're gonna make one.
Yeah, but the biggest news, I guess, it started maybe end of last week, beginning of this week. There was a report that Giannis had wiped all Milwaukee Bucks stuff from his social media. Then it came out this morning that he and his agent are going to meet with the Bucks, try to figure out, what's the move for the future. And I think they said they're hoping to resolve it in a few weeks. I know December 15th, as I was cooking up mock trades, is a big day for people who were signed last offseason. They can be traded again. That happened. That's coming up in 12 days. Um, I made a list of potential trade packages. If you wanted to go through it,
Yeah,
Mike, and give
go
me your
ahead.
opinions.
We already moved on to our preview section, so yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
think there's lots of interesting, and everyone. I don't care who you are, unless you're like obviously a team that's purposely taking like the Nets. Like you wouldn't trade for a Giannis, but anyone who's even wanting to make the playoffs, like I think anyone's interested in hearing and potentially, trading for Giannis because he's still a top, I would say top 5 player in the league right now, top 10 at least.
yeah. I mean, definitely easily top 10, and you can make the case for top five. Yeah, so in almost all the packages, I assume just like if LeBron were ever to be traded, Bronny would go with him. So in all the trade packages I did Giannis and Thanasis just because I don't think the Bucks have any interest in keeping him on the team if Giannis is no longer on the team. But yeah, I mean, I cooked up 6 teams. It was going to be more. One of those teams was going to be the Cavs, but the Cavs is nearly impossible to trade for Giannis just because they're over the second apron. So they can't aggregate contracts. When I was trying to cook up trades, basically you have to trade out a player that makes more than a player you're receiving. And Giannis makes about $53 million a year. They have no player on their team that makes that much. So they would have to ship off, who I thought they would trade Evan Mobley to another team. And it just gets hairy. So as much as I would like Cleveland to trade for him because they are one of my wins teams, it's probably not going to happen. So let's just get this out of the way because I was going to do it. I cooked up a Lakers trade. So yeah, of course, in all the trades, and there are a few situations where the Bucks trade an additional player who I'll mention when we get to one of those teams. But the Lakers receive Giannis and Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and the Lakers would trade Rui Hachimura, if needed, Austin Reeves.
Oh,
But
he's got to be in that deal. Got to be.
I mean, you saw how we traded for Luca, so you never know. But Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, Dalton Connect, and whatever picks they want.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to like. How would you not include Austin Reeves in that deal? You're like, we're gonna give you Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Dalton Connect, and like a first round pick,
Vando.
a Bando. Yeah, he's the needle mover on that one. And then like what? We're gonna give you like all of our second round picks for the next 50 years.
I think we have 3 first-round picks available to be traded, either unprotected or swaps. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably a long shot, but I think I saw Brian Windhorst saying that Giannis will basically tell the Bucks the teams he wants to be traded
Yeah,
to,
I think that
and
will be a big key.
and it sounds like the Bucks will honor his request because he did bring them a ring
Yeah.
and try to get the best package possible. So if he wants to come to LA, I was just thinking, I'm like, Luca, Braun, Giannis, like I'd love if Reeves was there, especially to compete with the Thunder. But
Yeah.
if they asked for Reeves
Oh, I
and
would willingly give him. Yeah.
that was a sticking point, I would do it.
Yeah, because it's like, don't get me wrong, Reeves was really good, and I think he's gonna be an all-star this year, but like you can easily sign a free agent that obviously maybe not the production that Austin Reeves has, but someone close. Like, and you trade for Giannis, you're just an automatic magnet for good veteran players to want to go there. And it's LA, so it's really easy to attract people there.
For sure. So yeah, that's probably the Lakers trade, and all these would of course include picks. The next trade, which is probably one of the easiest ones, and I heard that once again, Brian Windhorst was saying that Giannis would like to be traded to the Knicks. That one's pretty simple. The Knicks get the 2 brothers, and they trade Cat and Deuce McBride.
And a bunch of picks, right?
Yeah, and of course, whatever. Like all these are just whatever picks the Bucks request.
Yeah.
That's a pretty easy trade, but you kind of have to ask yourself, as the Bucks, like, does that really move the needle enough?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume at that point the Bucks would probably be in full rebuild mode. So then you can even flip or Cat for someone else. Yeah, that makes sense. You can keep going.
Yeah, the next trade I have, I mean, I heard they were interested in Anthony Davis because they are at the top of the East, and just the East is weak this year. And it's like, hey, let's go for it. I have the Pistons, and that trade would involve Tobias Harris, Karis LeVert, Jaden Ivey, and of course, whatever picks the Bucks requested. I think this isn't a bad package. Jaden Ivey is an up and coming player, could potentially be an all-star in the future, and the Pistons, they have decent amount of their own picks, and I'm not sure how many other picks they have from other teams, but they could probably give them a Clippers package of 4 or 5 picks or pick swaps.
Yeah. And honestly, if I were the Pistons, if you're getting Giannis, depending on what else is on the table, I'd probably be willing to give them Jalen Duren as well. I know we talked about last time, like Jalen Duren is kind of like their franchise center, but if you have a guy like Giannis, I don't know if you can play both of them at the same time on the court.
Yeah, but the Pistons definitely have a lot of contracts they can aggregate, and I don't believe if they're over the first apron, they're not by much. So that was just the package I came up with, not trying to give up Jalen Duran because it's pretty obvious Giannis wants to trade. So you're going to get pennies on the dollar. And just would he want to go to Detroit is the question.
I mean, he was in Milwaukee, so not much better.
Yeah, most definitely. And these next 3, I feel like would be the front runners. I have the Spurs. And the Spurs kind of the same deal as the Lakers. I was more irrational with my Lakers, not wanting to include Reeves, but they're going to have to include Castle or Harper. I don't think they'd really want De'Aaron Fox, even though he is a good player. Just if they're rebooting the team, you probably want the 21-year-old point guard or the 19-year-old point guard. So those salaries are pretty interchangeable. So Castle/Harper, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, and Kelly Olynyk, and of course, whatever picks they request.
I think that would be a good deal. I think honestly, as much as I love Stephon Castle, Um, I would do that trade. I would trade Stephon Castle, those players and picks for Giannis, because I would actually keep Dylan Harper, because I think Dylan Harper has a little bit more potential. Like Stephon Castle has been solid, and I think he's like a very good player. I think he's a future All-Star for sure, or potential All-Star. But I don't know how high Stephon Castle's ceiling is, like he's a really good playmaker. He won Rookie of the Year, and he fits well in that system. And I like it, having a 6'6" point guard is really nice. But then you have a guy like Dylan Harper, and then you can easily move De'Aaron Fox into that starting like point guard role. I haven't seen too many games where De'Aaron and Stephon Castle played both together and how that really looked, because I mean, Stephon Castle can play off ball. I think De'Aaron Fox is mainly a point guard. I don't know if he can play that much off ball, but I think having De'Aaron Fox in that starting role and then have Dylan Harper kind of learn from De'Aaron Fox would be a good role. And honestly, like I said, I feel like Dylan Harper kind of has a little bit more upside than Stephon Castle as far as career wise. So I would make that. I think it's a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. And the other guys in the package aren't bad. Devin Vassell can get you, 15, 18 points a game. Sohan is a solid player as well. And Olynyk, which is an expiring contract, but if you're not trying to completely bottom out, it's a solid center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is my dark horse. It's probably not even a dark horse, but I have an Atlanta Hawks trade.
Yeah, I think that's really intriguing as well.
Yeah. So the Atlanta Hawks trade I have is Kristaps Porzingis, expiring contract. It'll hurt them, but it's Giannis we're talking about. Jalen Johnson.
All right, keep going. Sorry.
Onyeka Okongwu. And the real kicker, obviously, picks, but the biggest probably trade chip pick they have is the Pelicans 2026 unprotected first round pick.
I think that's too like. Granted, this is Giannis we're talking about, but if I'm the Hawks, I think that's too much. Of course, like if I'm the Bucks, I would want that. If I'm the Hawks, I would try to finagle some sort of trade that involves Trae Young. And I know the Bucks are probably not wanting to do that, but depending on if they include that pick in there as well, I think that makes it a lot more intriguing.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I initially had just did Porzingis and Trae Young, and the kicker with this Hawks trade is that the Hawks would be able to send, or not the Hawks, the Bucks would be able to send Kyle Kuzma just because they have, they're under the salary, but they have so much salary cap space that they'd be able to absorb Kyle Kuzma, who still has a 1 year, $22 million contract that the Bucks probably have no interest in paying. The Hawks could absorb that, and they have a lot of contracts to do it. I think, Hawks would love to be able to just ship off Trae Young, and then you have Giannis play like a point center, and then you have Jalen Johnson. I mean, they have trade chips. Jalen Johnson, which I know both of us would not want to trade if it came down to it. I would do it.
I wouldn't do it. Jalen Johnson's a baller, man. I would try to include like obviously Trae, and then maybe like a Dylan. Like if that and a couple of players that aren't Jalen Johnson or Dyson Daniels, I would obviously ship off, like be willing to ship off Onyeka and that pick. But if it includes like Jalen Johnson and that pick, I think that you can't. I think it's one or the other. I don't think you can give up both if you're the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, they have Ricochet too, who makes $10-11 million. He's a salary filler. I just think, and granted, it's where Giannis wants to go. And are they willing to take back Trae Young? He definitely will help you not bottom out. They can take back Kuzma, and not too many teams can do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely interesting. And if they're willing to not take Jalen Johnson and take Trae Young with the caveat of the Hawks, picking up the Hawks taking back Kuzma. That Pelicans pick, it's gonna be top 5.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Zion is out for multiple weeks. Yeah, the Pelicans are terrible. They have zero offense. But yeah, if I were the Hawks, I would be able to include everything except for Jalen Johnson. Ideally, you keep Dyson Daniels as well because I just love how I actually bet them again tonight against the Clippers. Maybe I'm crazy or the line was just messed up. It's only like -3 against the Clippers at home in Atlanta. But I think this Atlanta Hawks team is very much better without Trae Young. They have a super big lineup. It's like 6'5", and you have Nickeil Alexander Walker running the point guard. Granted, they suffer a little bit offensively versus Trae Young, but Trae Young doesn't play any defense. So especially having a team with Giannis as well, they're going to probably be one of the top defenses in the league if they can retain Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. So I very much like the trade if they can get it done. But I would say as far from a Bucks perspective, I'd probably think the best trade package, unless you get Jalen Johnson and that pick from the Hawks, is probably the Spurs, where I see it from both.
But wait,
sides.
there's one more. The Godfather
one?
offer. And I think you know where I'm going with this one. The Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, yeah.
This package would be comprised of Isaiah Hartenstein, interchangeable because their salaries are pretty similar. Lou Dort, which I think they'd probably prefer, or Alex Caruso. And then once again, interchangeable, depends on who they prefer. I think they'd prefer the latter, but Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, one of the two. And then their Godfather chip piece, which they have a lot more of them, but specifically next year's Clippers pick, unprotected.
That would be interesting. Of course,
I think that's the best deal available, in my opinion. Yeah, you get Castle or Harper with the Spurs pick, who were number 2 picks the last 2 years, but the Thunder, they just start off with that Clippers pick. Next year they have Clippers swap. Clippers aren't going to get.
Well, don't they have the Clippers pick? Don't they also have the Jazz pick as well?
They have the Jazz pick. I think it's top 7 or top 8 protected.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't convey this year, it's going to convey next year.
Yeah.
So they can just overwhelm the Bucks with picks.
Picks and young talent. Yeah.
And it's not going to be Oklahoma City's, number 30, number 29 overall pick. It's other teams' picks.
Yeah.
And Hartenstein, I think he has a team option next year, so you can just pull the plug there and not pay him. Dort and Caruso, solid players, and Aaron Wiggins or Cason Wallace. I would prefer Cason Wallace just because he's younger, but the Thunder could do without, 3 of those players.
Yeah.
You get Giannis
with
Shea, J-Dub, Chet, and Giannis. It might be worse than the Golden State Warriors because you have a crazy bench too.
True. Granted, you'd be giving up a lot of bench pieces for Giannis, but like you said, it's Giannis. So I think he's easily worth like 3 or 4 players. He's easily worth like a whole starting lineup, honestly. That's a pretty intriguing offer if they include that Clippers pick as well, because that totally will jumpstart the Bucks rebuild. You get a bunch of really good young players that you can plug and play. They get a little bit more opportunity. Maybe one of them, like Cason Wallace or Aaron Wiggins, ends up becoming a really solid starter and star for your team, and you have that pick on top of that. Yeah, I guess it just depends on what the Bucks are trying to do. Like, are they trying to just tank, or are they still trying to like maybe win games? I mean, the East is really weak this year, so and this draft is amazing. I think it just all depended on what the Bucks are wanting to do. But I have a feeling Giannis wants to stay in the Eastern Conference. just because it's
Yeah.
an easier conference, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there are really any other teams. I compiled a list. I put it in our notes of like good teams, like the Rockets maybe could come up with a trade package, but maybe even Toronto, a dark horse, like around Scotty Barnes. But
Mhm.
Miami doesn't have enough. Orlando doesn't have enough. Like Boston trades Jason Tatum, a hurt Jason Tatum.
I mean, or maybe Orlando could cook something up because, I mean, Paolo's been out, but they've looked really good without Paolo. So include Paolo, maybe like another. I just don't know how much Paolo's making. I mean, I think he's just on his rookie extension, right? He hasn't been given the super max yet. I don't think he's.
Yeah. I just still don't know if they're win now. Like obviously the Oklahoma City trade is the Godfather trade. And I second place I'd probably put Hawks/Spurs interchangeably.
Mhm.
Just depends on how much you value that Pelicans unprotected first round pick. And they have other picks too, the Hawks. Probably more than the Spurs. Because the Spurs traded some picks to get De'Aaron Fox. But yeah, I'm very interested these next few weeks to see how this unravels. Where would you put the line that he gets traded midseason?
Oh, I think it's definitely favored that he's going to get traded mid-season. Like, I would be very, very shocked that he's still on the Bucks through the rest of the season. Very shocked.
So yeah, gun to your head, or I guess
I mean, yeah.
Bills on the table. Where does he go?
I mean, if the Thunder are offering that, I think the Bucks would probably have to take that offer. Unless the only caveat would be if Atlanta is willing to put in Jalen Johnson, um, that New Orleans pick, and a couple other young players. Because I'm really high on Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree too. Those last three teams I said will probably be my favorites. I don't know if Oklahoma City would want to just mess up their chemistry because they're 21-1, but an opportunity to get Giannis and use some of these millions of picks they have, why not? Like you'll
Yeah,
win the next
that would
three
be
championships.
yeah. Because I mean, you're already the best team in the league, so that's the thing. It's like, do you break it up? I mean, on paper, you'd be definitely way better, but chemistry wise, like how's that team gonna change with Giannis coming in? Yeah, they could puts OKC kind of on the hot, like in a very I would say pretty difficult situation, because it would be one thing if this was next season and like they went and they didn't win the championship again. It's like, all right, like let's trade for Giannis, like let's become unstoppable. But you just won a championship. You're 20-1 right now. And granted, like on paper, like I said, it's kind of a no-brainer, but chemistry wise, it could change some stuff. And then if Giannis were to happen to get hurt or someone get hurt, like what then?
Yeah. I think the Hawks, if I had to pick a team that's going to trade for him, I think the Spurs, they're too. Yeah, Spurs or Hawks slightly above the Spurs. Just depends on if they're willing to break up that trio of kind of point guards. But Atlanta just needs to go for it. And if they can just trade Trae Young and keep Jalen Johnson, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
deciding whether or not to trade Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
So we'll monitor it, but those are the mock trades I came up with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're in the Bucks position, like if I was a Bucks fan, I actually wouldn't be that upset. Because I mean, yeah, you lose Giannis, and he's been so important to that franchise and that city. But like, you kind of had a feeling like that, especially with this team, like you lose Brooke Lopez, you sign Miles Turner, who's been honestly like pretty bad this season, and you literally like you don't have Dame anymore. There's no Chris Middleton. There's no like your best second player is Brian Rollins, who is like a sophomore player. Like that's not good. You're probably not even going to make the playoffs with that. So
No, the Bucks are probably close with the Clippers and Pelicans, the teams with the most depressing futures. Like to sign Miles Turner, you had to stretch and waive Damian Lillard's contract. He's on the books for $22.5 million over the next 4 seasons.
yeah,
Over the next 4 seasons.
that's bad.
That's just dead cap on their
Dead
team.
money. Yeah,
And they did that so they can make a splash and sign Miles Turner. And Miles Turner is a good player, but really, your dynamic duo is, or even dynamic trio, is Giannis Antetokounmpo, Miles Turner, and Kyle Kuzma. Yeah, you're gonna go far, even in a weak Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and that's assuming Giannis plays every game, which obviously he doesn't.
Yeah, like their second best player is actually Ryan Rollins.
No, that's why I said I'm like it's pretty sad when you're like, granted, like no, like shade to him, but like when Ryan Rollins is your second best player in the team, like a lot, like I've never even heard of that guy before this season.
Yeah, second round pick out of Toledo. He can hoop, but so yeah, kind of transitioning as we mentioned, there's a big slate of NFL games. I kind of highlighted them. We can just quickly go over them and get your thoughts on them before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So yeah, tomorrow, Cowboys at Lions. For me, this is another loser leaves town game. Detroit's favored by 3 points. The Cowboys have won 3 straight games. The Lions they just lost, but they squeaked out a win against the Giants the week prior. I think I know who you're going to pick, but go ahead and let our viewers know.
Yeah. I mean, the line is right now Detroit -3, which I think is reasonable. I think even 3, I'm going to go like I picked the Cowboys right now. I'm really hoping, and honestly, the way it's probably going to close more like 2.5, honestly, because I think I don't see anyone wanting to bet the Lions this week. Like, if anything, maybe the overs will look as well. But I bet the Cowboys +3. I'm kind of like wishful thinking for a 3.5 because then I can hit it harder. But that would be my play. Like Cowboys are the hot team. They play indoors. Granted, they're not playing at home and they're really good at home, but the Lions, I don't know if they can really stop that many people. I trust the Cowboys defense over the Lions defense right now. Both offenses are explosive. Both offenses are probably going to put up points, as you can see reflected in the total. But yeah, if I had to trust someone's defense more and kicker, I'd go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, loser leaves town. Both teams are, I mean, Detroit's 8, Cowboys are 9 in terms of ranking in the NFC. The team above them is the San Francisco 49ers at 9-4. So it's kind of a must win for either team. And whoever loses it is probably effectively out of the playoffs. I'm not a Cowboy hater, but it's just like I want to believe that Detroit will bounce back. And if it's a shootout, I mean, it might go the Cowboys' way. Cowboys defense just looked really good. I know you've talked about it. All their off-season acquisitions are just guys getting healthy. They looked pretty good. So yeah, definitely play the 3. I thought you were going to just say Cowboys money line.
No, I mean, I still think Detroit is that very much live in this game. No, by no means. So I think the Cowboys are going to easily win the game. So that's why I go Cowboys +3. I think the difference in the game will be how does the Cowboys run defense look against the line?
Gibbs.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, the line hasn't really looked good. Gibbs has looked amazing, but I think it will come down to that. I mean, Amon-Ra is listed as questionable. He has potential to play. I don't really think he is going to play. It's like a game time decision, but Dan Campbell says if he can play, he's going to play. So, but even then, like Amon-Ra in or out, I don't think it's going to really make that much of a difference. I think Jameson Williams is really good. Khalif Raymond is also out as well. But I think it's mainly going to be decided on that run offensive defense.
For sure. So, yeah, I think our play is Cowboys +3. And if it goes up to +3.5, hit it harder.
Yeah.
Next big game is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is favored by 5.5 with a 53.5 point over under.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Bills, that Bills Steelers game last week was just ugly. Like, I'd say all of those afternoon slate games were just ugly and not even like worth watching because that's literally what they were. I don't have a ton of faith in the Bills. It'd be interesting to see what the weather looks like, but from what I saw from the Bengals, like that was really good. I mean, obviously you have Lamar Jackson being Lamar sucking right now, but Josh Allen has always been proven to throw a pick or two here or there. He can win you a lot of games, but he can also lose you a lot of games the same way. And Joe Burrow's been playing really well. He went into Baltimore and did that. He's just even more healthy this week. I think the big difference will be if Cincinnati's defense can do what they did against the Ravens last week, because Bengals run game looks pretty good. And obviously everyone knows that the Bills' weakness is that run defense. So if they get that going, I think Bengals are on all cylinders. Offensively, there's not much the Bills can do. The big thing is Cincinnati able to step up to the plate defensively and limit the Bills enough to win the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably do a teaser with the Cowboys and the Bengals, tease those lines up, get it above 7.5 Cowboys, and even if possible, 9.5 or 10.5 Bengals. The weather's showing 27 degrees in Buffalo, so it's going to be a cold game. Bengals don't have the run game the Bills have, which typically is required in a running game or in a cold game. So yeah, I think either tease the Bengals up or tease the Bills down. It's in a Vegas zone, 5.5. But if you ask me just to pick straight up, I would take the Bengals. I'm in the Bills, 5.5.
Okay.
So next big game is Indianapolis Colts at Jacksonville Jaguars. The Colts are favored currently by 2.5 points in Jacksonville. And both teams are 8-4, and this could very well be the winner. It becomes the winner of the AFC South.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game because ever since past couple weeks, I want to say, ever since Danny Jones discovered that he had a microfracture in his fibula, the offense is kind of just like stalemated. Like, granted, Houston's defense is really good. You got to give credit. And then you have the Chiefs defense as well. But went from being, they might even still be like the number one. No, they're not the number one offense anymore. But at one point, they were the number one offense in the league. And they scored 20 against the Chiefs, including in overtime. And what they score, 16 against Houston at home. So obviously, you can't really compare Jacksonville's defense to those two defenses, especially Houston's being the best in the league. But I think Jags have a pretty serviceable defense. That pass rush is formidable. and especially on a very limited Daniel Jones not being able to move around much. He's going to rely on Jonathan Taylor just handing the ball off to him and making some quick throws to Alec Pierce has been kind of killing it silently for the past 2 to 3 games. But Trevor Lawrence has looked a lot better. Granted, this is kind of like the first test, and especially with Sauce Gardner being out, Colts do have a great defensive front line. So I don't think the Jacksonville's going to really be able to run the ball much. It's going to come down to if Trevor Lawrence can get the ball down the field, which against a Colts defense and against a Colts pass rush. But I'd say at the line right now, it's 2.5. I would probably pick Indy right here at like a 3.5. I would go with Jacksonville, but at the line where it is, I'd probably have to lean the Colts.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Probably play. I would probably even just go Colts. You could play both sides and either do Colts cover 2.5 or Jaguars win straight up. I know you want to get plus odds on both sides, but I think if the Colts are going to win, they're going to win by more than 3 points. And if the Jags won't. Yeah, or you pick the Jags to win.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I don't know if I trust Trevor Lawrence. Like he's been playing a lot better, but granted, his last game became against Tennessee, and Tennessee sucks. So I don't know how much I can weigh into like Trevor Lawrence being like a really good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean the Jags have my guy, former Raider Jacoby Myers. He's been playing really well. Liam Cohn, former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Bucks. They've been running the ball well. Yeah, the Colts are kind of circling the drain. So, give me the Jags money line, at least right now. 3 more games I wanted to go over. Like I said, this is a big week. This is kind of another loser leaves town, and it might include the coach. Just saying. Pittsburgh Steelers at Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore favored by 6 points.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly game, I'll tell you this. Both teams look terrible. You could easily see it in their losses from last week. Lamar Jackson, if he's ever going to even come close to what he normally looks like. Baltimore being favored -6 against the Steelers, like that just shows you how bad the Steelers have been playing. Because obviously you know how bad the Ravens are playing, but I don't know. I don't really have like any interest in this game. Obviously, if I had to say like divisional game, I think it's going to be tight. So if anything, I'd probably say Steelers plus the points. But I think the Ravens win this game.
Yeah, I agree. Probably the biggest game of the week, Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers, and they're not giving the Bears any love. The Green Bay is favored by 6.5 points. Do you think the Bears are legit, or at least can cover, a touchdown?
I don't think so. I won't bet this game, but I'd say, yeah, I think Green Bay covers this. I think honestly the better play might be the over, because I think like Bears can definitely score points. They've kind of proven it, but at the same time, I think the Packers can score points as well. So
weather in Green Bay is projecting to be 18 degrees.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a pounding game, and I guess you could say the Bears have the advantage in that, looking off prior games. But I don't know. I think it's I personally won't be betting this game. If I had to choose a side, though, I'd probably say Green Bay.
Yeah, I think Green Bay too. 7 points is tough, especially with a line so low, 44.5.
Yeah.
I'd probably just tease the Packers down to even 3.5. I know that's still not a key number, but I think they could win 21-17. So
yeah, I mean, I think the key thing for the Packers right here in why the line's at where it's at right now is they get a lot of offensive power back. They get, I believe, Jaden Reed is going to be his first week back. They get another an extended week, so essentially like a mini bye for Josh Jacobs, for their other semi-injured players from last week. So I think that's kind of baked into this line. That's why the line's so high. But I think to the average person, it'd be like, well, the Bears just beat the Eagles, like 6.5, like against Green Bay. Like that's a no-brainer. Pick the Bears. But I think
I just feel like
offense.
I feel like in this game, the rush will come, or just the run defense will be there, and it will be required of Caleb Williams to go out and try to win the game. And I just don't believe in Caleb Williams.
He doesn't have the info points or enough info points against good teams to make me put my faith in the Bears, and Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and then wrapping it up, or I guess not even wrapping it up. Like I said, to the credit, so many good games this week. Sunday night, Houston at Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 3.5. And this is another big loser leaves town, because if the Chiefs lose this game, the Texans will now have the tiebreaker against them, and the Texans will be 8-5. The Chiefs will be 6-7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we can just go ahead and say it. Do you think there's any chance Kansas City will lose this game? I mean, 3.5, is over a field goal win, but
I think they could lose this game. I mean, you could have said the same thing when Houston played the Bills. Could have said the same thing when Houston played the Colts. The Bills game being in Houston, but the Colts game being in Indianapolis. And granted, Arrowhead Stadium is a whole different level from those two venues. But if anything travels well, I think defense travels well. You have Will Anderson. I think last week he had a 38% pressure success rate. 38%. So like that's insane. It's like one in every almost a little bit less than one in every 2 snaps he was able to get pressure onto the quarterback. And I want to say also Kansas City is going to be missing 2 starting linemen as well, or at least they went out last game. I don't know if they're going to come back. So that plays a big factor in it as well. It's like, are they going to be able to protect Patrick Mahomes, number 1 defense in the league, coming to Arrowhead? Like I said, defense travels well. Kicker-wise, I'd probably pick Fairbairn over Butker. Butker has been having kind of an average season this year. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but I assume it's going to be pretty cold. Nothing too crazy, but I think CJ Stroud didn't look great last game, but he can make enough passes, enough offense, to move the ball down the field. And yeah, Houston's defense is just so good. So they can create turnovers, short fields for their offense to make it a little bit easier on them. But yeah, I think Houston's live in this game, and I already bet them plus 3.5.
Solid. Yeah, I mean, as much as I dislike the Chiefs, it's hard for me to imagine that their season will effectively end in week 14. 3.5 is a tough number. I feel like with especially the line being 41.5, I would pick Chiefs money line or tease it down at 2.5. I'd love the Texans to prove me wrong with all the points you made, just with their defense and limiting teams. But yeah, give me the Chiefs. And the last game, Monday Night Football, Philadelphia Eagles visit the Los Angeles Chargers, and Philly is favored by 3 points. I will go ahead and say, give me Philly 3, give me Philly 3.5. I think there's no way that the Eagles will lose 3 straight games, especially to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think this is probably an under game. Both offenses are pretty bad if you look at, and they're both defenses are pretty good as well. I don't know. It's just, yeah, this is a hard one. I think who do you think is a better coach, like Nick Sirianni or Jim Harbaugh? Like, I would probably go Harbaugh. Obviously, like quarterback situation with the Chargers and Herbert fracturing his non-throwing hand, that will definitely take it a factor as well as far as like being aggressive, taking hits and whatnot. And you have Trey Lance being your backup. I would definitely not trust Trey Lance. So I can 100% see the Eagles side, but yeah, I just think the Eagles are just playing so bad right now. Like, sure, I guess I could see like a bounce back. If this was in Philly, I think it would be a whole different conversation, obviously. But I don't know. I got to ride with my Chargers. You know, I have a bet on them winning
to win the division.
Yeah, which they still have a chance. They can't lose this game though. They would have to win it. So
yeah, most definitely. So yeah, I like the Eagles. Give me Eagles 3. Give me Eagles 3.5.
I mean, you said the same thing against the Bears.
Yeah, I did. For the Chargers, I guess Eagles were home that game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like same thing with the Chiefs. It's like these have historically been really good teams. They had a great I guess the Chiefs didn't not so great start to the season, but the Eagles really good start to the season. But like at the way like pace of like the trend of how these teams are playing, like I would not want to bank on like these teams like turning it around, like how bad they've been playing.
Yeah. So yeah, some great games to check out this week. Interesting to see any updates in the Giannis situation. Quickly, BYU was able to outbid Penn State and keep Kalani Sitake. Huge W. Shout out to the CEO of Crumble.
Dude, I saw like tweets and posts that like people were like sending Crumble cookies to Penn State, like delivering them and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it for me. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, that's it. A big game this weekend for the Cougs. I will be there at AT&T Stadium. I think there's going to be a ton of BYU fans, and ever since we got the news that Kalani was staying at BYU and extending, like I just smashed that BYU. What the line last time I saw was 12.5. I don't think it's probably changed. Honestly, I will say the smart move is probably to pick Texas Tech, but me being a BYU fan, I'm kind of like, I think this whole Kalani Sitake situation could have ended up really poorly for BYU. Obviously, if he decided to leave, and then all hands down, I would have been like 100% for that Texas Tech, like 12.5, like 13.5, 14.5, whatever the line would have been. But I think this motivates the guys, you know, the fact that, you know, he's a man of his word. He sticks to BYU. And granted, they're giving him a huge pay raise, but, you know, sacrificing money to stay at BYU where the people love him. People aren't spiting him and saying he's a bad hire like the Penn State fans were, where he's truly beloved, where he belongs in Provo. So I think BYU is they have to win this game. If they want to make the playoffs, they have to win this game. So I think BYU can definitely make it a game. And it's a big difference playing at a neutral site versus in Lubbock.
Most definitely. Go Cougs, 12.5 plus 12.5.
Yeah, I got a 13.5, but 12.5. It's pretty much the same.
13.5 could happen. 2 field goals.
No, exactly. That's why the 13.5 I think is if you can find a 13.5, do it. Even if you have to eat a little bit of juice. I think I got it like minus 125 or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I got for this week.
All right. Another successful episode of Boys Bet Ball. This is episode 6 coming to you. We'll see y'all next week. If you have any recommendations or anything you want to talk about, let us know. Trying to constantly up the quality of our streams every single time. Whenever, and hopefully in the next soon, you know. I'm investing a lot right now. Like I have these tickers, and I actually have one in the back right there on one of my desk. I have a 5-foot-long ticker that I'm going to put right here. Actually, I bought for Black Friday 100-inch screen TV that I'm going to put right here against this wall. So I actually got delivered the TV stand. I'm going to put the 5-foot long ticker right there. It's going to be a sick setup. So hopefully we can like sort it out before our next episode, maybe after that one. But investing a lot into my space. And then next, it's going to be the PC and the computer so we can stream multiple different places, not just YouTube. But that's it for me. We'll see y'all later. Stay safe, bet responsibly, and go Cougs.